Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Speaking Sessions podcast. I've got Bennett Maxwell here. He is a natural salesman. He has been making use of his gifts since childhood, actually, where he sold candy. So this dude is a natural born salesperson, natural entrepreneur. And from there, he actually got kicked out. They stopped him from actually selling that candy. I think a lot of people that ends up happening, but that didn't stop him. Through his lifelong entrepreneurial experience, Bennett has learned that success comes from surrounding yourself with other doers, which I love that, and is a member of the Forbes Business Council, Apex Executives, and the Power Room. From leading and building sales teams to real estate, solar, nonprofits, and cookie franchising, Bennett has done really it all. His life motto is, "It's what's on the inside that counts." And Bennett works to spread the message of proudly owning who you are, imperfections and all. He stands for authenticity and self-acceptance, encouraging others to come as they are, knowing that just like these cookies, that what really counts and what matters is on the inside. So Bennett, tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then we're going to dive into these cookies.
Awesome. The cookies are the good part.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a good business to be in. Everybody likes you if you're handing out cookies. Um, yeah, so I've kind of done the sales. I wouldn't even say I'm a like a I consider myself an introvert. Like when I do sales, like that's what I've always done. But like I don't ask people about their kids and their and their dog or build rapport. I'm like in it's business and I'm out. Just trying to really dive in. What's your problems? What's your needs? Let me solve those, and then let me go help the next person. And not really big into like just chatting with people at the grocery line or anything. But it was kind of just the first thing that I was exposed to is like, oh, you can buy something and then sell it for more and make money. Like that's cool. So we did that with candy bars, got kicked out of that. Then I was knocking doors in junior high, selling lawn aeration. So somebody else would come by and actually like run the little machine, but just knocking doors. And then to get by through sports, I did, I was playing football and wrestling and rugby. And to fund that and to pay for it, and to go to the camps and stuff, you had to go sell either cookie dough or like the starving student cards. And so same thing, it was just out of necessity. I'm banging on doors selling these products. And if you sold a lot, you could actually make some money. So I was, I paid for everything. I would usually make a little profit on there because I was always selling the most. So that's kind of my background. I got into the door to door and then started selling, pest control, started doing teams with pest, and then moved over to satellite, great product, always saving people money. Then moved over to alarms, smart home systems. That was great as well. Had a real fun time doing that. And then did solar. Loved solar, started a solar business with my brother, which was great. Learned a lot about business from him. And yeah, within 18 months, we'd actually sold the business. And then I dove headfirst into cookies. That's kind of where how I got where I'm at right now.
Yeah, man. I guess that ties back to there whenever you were trying to get in all the football stuff where you went and sold cookies there. So it's full circle coming back
Yeah.
to it, but definitely a life of sales, like literally. And I think a lot of us discount that we are always selling, whether we're actually in a sales position or not. We're always selling no matter what in life. And
Yeah.
and really, besides being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, the next, I guess, if you will, best thing as far as money making goes is really being a salesperson or obviously a doctor. But you go through years and years and really over a decade of schooling just to finally make several hundred grand when you can do that soon after going out, right after high school
Yeah.
or not even at high school. I mean, especially with social media and the internet. I mean, there's so many people making tons of money now.
That was exactly the journey. I wanted to be a doctor. I was going to pre-med and then I
Yeah.
did a summer and I'm like, wait a second, I just made more money than I would as a pediatrician in 4 months. This is probably a better lifestyle. And my wife, she actually wasn't in favor of me being a doctor because she's like, I'm not going to see you for the next so many years,
Hmm.
But the sales, I was always building teams and I was recruiting. And in Utah, this is what everybody does, door-to-door sales. And it has a pretty big, like kind of bro, like negative connotation to like, oh, you're door-to-door sales bro.
Hmm.
Uh, and I try to switch that and was able to recruit a lot of people by, hey, what are you going to do? It's, oh, I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a marketer. And it's like, okay, cool. So you need to communicate with people okay, cool. Come out and get communication training. Like if
Mm,
you can catch somebody's attention on the door that they have no idea who you are and you have no idea anything about them, but if you're able to capture their attention within that 5 to 10 seconds and learn that, tell me how that's not going to apply to you, even being a plumber, right? So
mm.
it was kind of shifting to, let's not focus on sales, let's focus on communication and problem solving. And because if you're a good salesman, that's what you're doing, right? You're a good communicator, you're a good listener, you're a good problem solver.
Mhm. Now that's interesting. So you mentioned about how you don't like small talk, but you're supposed to capture somebody's attention at the door. How in the world does that work out? Because I don't want some sleazy, and I use that in quotes, sales guy coming knocking on my door and like right away, hey, if you bought this solar package, you could definitely save a lot of money on your electricity bill or not have one.
Uh,
So how in the world do you not have small talk, but
yeah, so
communicate and
I
capture
kind of
attention?
you kind of sell how you want to be sold. And I'm a very analytical, it's all about the numbers,
Mm,
like I don't care about you and your dog. That's not going to affect, or if your daughter went to the same school that my daughter did, that doesn't mean I'm going to buy from you. I'm just looking at it very objectively. So maybe that's why I sell. But like my pitch on the door when I was doing alarms, I went up with this little doorbell camera. This was, 5 years ago, and the doorbell cameras are just coming out and knock on the door like, hey, don't want to waste your time. I'm out here doing these little doorbell cameras. I saw you already had a security system. And it's like, are you interested or not? And most people are like, oh, and then they start asking a question. Or like with solar, I was in San Diego, the number one most saturated solar market. But there's still a lot of homes without solar. So I'm like knocking on their doors. I'm like, dude, like the first thing I would say when they open up the door, I know I'm the 50th solar guy at your door. Um, what I'm doing, and just a little intro, but it's basically, I was pitching three things. What your neighbors are telling me, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time, but what your neighbors are telling me is if I can save you money instantly, it doesn't cost you a dime. I'm fixing your price and it's good for the environment. Like I'm locking in your price and it's good for the environment. Then why wouldn't you, right? Most
mm,
people are like, cool. So right off the bat, I'm like, I'm not here to bullshit you. I'm not here to try to build all this value and sell. It's like what I have is I'm going to cut your bill in half. And if I can't do that with no money down, I'm wasting my time. And I
mm.
feel like people appreciate the bluntness and the honesty of that, rather than me like, hey, how long have you lived here for and all that. And that's a great sales approach. That just wasn't my approach. My approach was straight to the point. Like, do you want it or do you not want it? And trying to cut out all of the, I guess, the wasted time. It's really all
Yeah.
about efficiency with me.
No,
Just
I mean and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense. And sometimes I wonder about that for myself because being an engineer, I'm very much more analytical, very much factual. Here's the numbers. It's either logical, it works, or it doesn't work. But I feel like I have to build that rapport sometimes. So I might need to go back and look at my sales approach as well. Plus, like you said, it saves time, saves them time because it's like, hey, here's the numbers. Does it work? Yes, no. Okay, we're moving on. And
I
it
don't know
helps
if I
you
would tell
too.
anybody to not build rapport. It's not my style.
Yeah. Oh,
Every
yeah.
sales
Yeah. No,
book
I
I
know what you're
read is all
saying.
about building rapport. I'm just like, I'm going to pull out this calculator and show you how much savings you're going to have year 1, year 10, and year 25. And solar's math. If it makes sense, you're going to sign. If it doesn't, I'm not even going to ask you to sign because I'm going to know it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of my approach. So
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
not saying
But
I recommend it. It's just, but it's worked for me.
yeah, definitely interesting approach. I also noticed you mentioned something about your wife saying that if you went to medical school, you wouldn't have time. Yet typically, especially starting out as an entrepreneur, you don't have time either. So how in the world did that work out? I guess you were more of a salesperson than entrepreneur per se,
Yeah.
but still, how in the world? Like,
I was working just like 4 or 5 months of the year. That was it,
okay.
and making a few $100,000. And so I was still like going to school to please everybody,
Hmm.
And then I was a semester away, and I'm like, I'm dropping out. I tell a few people I'm dropping out. Everybody's freaking out. Oh, you can't drop out. But well, like I had straight A's. It wasn't because I wasn't good at school. I was a good student. And then I to get people off my back, I started telling people I'm taking a break.
Mm,
But my
yeah.
wife is like, why are you telling people you're taking a break? I'm like, to get them off my back, and she's like, I'm glad you dropped out because I didn't want the doctor life. I like the let's move somewhere in the summer, work for 4 or 5 months, and then vacation for the other 7, 8 months. Now, as an entrepreneur, I did start, like when I started the solar business, I was working a lot. Lasted about a year until I worked myself out of the business, replaced myself, and then for that, and that's when I actually bought the cookie company, because I
Mhm.
still owned the solar company, but I wasn't the sales manager anymore. I wasn't a sales rep. I wasn't a regional. I wasn't the marketer. I was nothing in the business. I was just I'm here if you need me type of deal. Um, so that gave me the time to buy Dirty Dough and start working on that. And then it also allowed me to exit that company to show, hey, I haven't even been in the company for 6 months. It's running. Proving
Mm.
that it was a process. So my goal is definitely not to do the typical entrepreneur. I'm going to work, and then in 10 years I'm going to enjoy it, or in 5 years. It's like, no, I'm gonna enjoy it now. I'm gonna stop working at 5 o'clock. I'm going on a cruise tomorrow out of Italy for 2 weeks. But it's why, I don't know. Sales, it's always about asking why. Why do you want it? Why do you want that? What's the real reason? Well, what else? And so you do that to yourself, and you start psychoanalyzing yourself, and you're like, well, why do I want to work extra hours? Oh, to get more money. Why do I want extra money? Oh, to get time. Well, why do I want the time? I want to spend it with my family. Well, I could just spend more time with my family right now. you know,
Yeah.
so why am I going through all of these sacrifices that I don't necessarily need to? But
Mm.
I guess I'd already sacrificed, and I already owned, properties, and I already had some residual income and stuff. So that's when I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm going to live
Mm.
now how I want to retire, and get what work I can get done in that amount of time.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've done a lot of like thinking about the end and having that in mind.
Yeah.
And I
You
guess
do.
already having that bug of working 4 or 5 months a year and you have the rest of the time off, it's kind of hard to go back. I know my wife
Yeah.
and I are working through that right now. She went PRN after our daughter went back to, or started going to daycare, and she had to go back to work and everything, which basically means part-time nurse. And she's on a contract right now because they're like, hey, we'll give you an extra $5 an hour plus a bonus
Mhm.
at the end for completing 6 weeks of full time. And she's already like, I'm done with this. I'm tired of it,
Yeah.
because she got the bug of working like 3 or 4 days a week. And so
Yeah.
having that time off was really nice. And I can't blame her, but it's still funny because it was only a couple of weeks of that. And then right back into 5 days a week. It's just like, I can't stand this. So I could totally see that happening for you as well. So,
Yeah. So I've done like it. I start working I don't schedule anything before 9:30 because I'm doing to the gym. So I start a little late, and I have a
mhm.
hard cutoff at 5. I have dinner every night. I'm with my family at 6 o'clock, no matter what. Have date nights twice a week, no matter what. Like, I was at an event last week. Everybody's going out and networking it to the bar and stuff. It was that solar conference, and
Mhm.
well, that sounds fun. But I've committed to myself that, again, why am I going to go network? Okay, so I can have time, so I can do date nights with my wife. Well, I can already do date nights with my wife, and that's actually going to make me happier. So then it's like, nope, I'm just going to leave and do the date night, and not do this after party with everybody.
Interesting. Do you feel like that's kind of slowed your progress down at all as far as the end goals in life or anything? Or do you feel like it's
Well,
accelerated them?
maybe. I mean, if you look at it again, what are you after? Are you after being happier, or are you after more money? It's
Mm.
typically, you say you're after money to be happier, but it's like, well, can you just live the life you want to live? Like, I'm making good money. I have good investments. I have good retirement accounts and good real estate portfolio. So why do you keep working more than 40 hours a week, or even 30 hours a week,
Mm.
if you're living the life you want to live?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's definitely something that, well, I guess for somebody just starting out, it'd be a lot harder. But I mean, sometimes you just have to put in that time, right? But you're at a point where you don't have to put in that time anymore. It sounds like you really got off on a good start, anyways. So
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
didn't
got
really
lucky.
ever have to do that, if you will. But I know during those few months you were working, I'm sure you were busting your butt, but then you had all that time off afterwards, and now you're working more weeks through the year, probably, but you're not working as many hours during those few months like you were with solar and everything.
Yeah,
So,
no, exactly. It was definitely, you grind, and then you relax. And now
mhm.
it's kind of like, let's build a lifestyle that is what I want to live and what my
Mhm.
family wants.
Mm. I love it. And so I know you're all in the cookie business and everything with Dirty Dough. And we talked about it a little bit offline, but you're kind of building a nonprofit behind it. So talk about that. How in the world did you get into going into Dirty Dough and then really building that nonprofit with that and the why behind it and everything.
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, um, at that 3 years ago, I had a daughter that was 2 and a newborn daughter. And I listened to a podcast called, it was a Joe Rogan podcast. And he was interviewing a psychologist named Jonathan Haidt. And he was looking at the suicide and self-harm rates in teenagers and kids. And it was stagnant for decades. And then social media hits and it's over doubled. So as a father of 2 daughters, and girls are way more likely to, have an issue with mental health. What do you do? I didn't know what to do. But it just got me worried. And then a year later, I had a wife. I didn't have a wife. I have a wife. My wife's niece, 12 years old, had a suicide attempt. And it's like, I didn't know that was a thing, right? And here in Utah 2 months ago, it made national news saying a 12-year-old actually died by suicide. And it's just like, what is going on? And then I had a daughter, my older daughter, a year ago, she started watching YouTube, and she's watching this great show. It's called A for Adley. And it's like an LDS Mormon guy out of Utah playing with this kid. It's great content. But what I already noticed my daughter doing at 4 years old, maybe even 3, it's, Daddy, I want what Adley has. Daddy, I want to go where Adley's going. Right. And it's like, she's already comparing herself to Adley. And it's taking, it's like their camera's following them around, just doing their stuff. Right. But they're turning off the camera when somebody starts crying and when the kids start fighting, so we know that that's not real, but psychologically, like in our subconscious, it's like, oh man, that's a perfect life. So at 3 years old, 4 years old, my daughter's already going through that. So it's like, what do you do? How do you take away this comparison of like, I'm living my normal life, but because I'm comparing myself to Philip's Instagram life, I don't feel good about myself anymore. So bought this company, and I've been, mulling this over, like, what do I do? What do I do? And then I heard an employee say, dirty dough means the dough's dirty. We focus on the inside of the cookie. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good message. Like, let's run with that. And then it's like, okay, well, let's put in more mix-ins, more fillings. Let's do 2-layer cookies. Let's do 3-layer cookies. And then we can show people that these are dirty, messy cookies, just like life is dirty and messy, but it's meant to be enjoyed like that. We want to stand for like on an authentic cookie, right? And it's like, it is how it is. You don't need to get dressed up or do your makeup or look good to go into a dirty dough store. And that's, so just fit really well with the product. And then it's like, okay, well, what can we do with this? We've sold 57 franchises in 4 months. And it's like, okay, well, it's not out there to say that we might get 1,000 franchises. So if we have 1,000 franchises, that's a big vehicle. What can we potentially do for that? So the first thing we did is like, okay, well, who's working in our stores? 16 to 22-year-old kids mainly, and mainly females. And who's at the height of the mental crisis? Boom, right there. So with 1,000 stores, that's 20, 30,000 employees between us and our franchisees. So how can we help them? So we, at a corporate level, we're paying for a life guidance service. So it pairs them with a life guide that's gone through something similar, and it's unlimited calls per month. And it's whether it's, an anxiety or depression, but it's also, what about peak performance? What about financial stress, eating healthy, sleeping good, mindfulness, guided meditation, going through a divorce, single parenting. It's like 50 different things. And there's no employee that we're going to hire that doesn't have 5 things that they can work on if we can coach them through that and get their mentality right. And then, so it's like, okay, let's do that for the employees, but what about our end user? Other than just pushing the message of the inside matters most and what's on the inside, all of that, it's what can we actually do? And there's wellness centers popping up in high schools and junior highs and even elementaries. So it's us, our nonprofit is calling these schools and saying, hey, do you guys have a room that we can convert to a wellness center? We'll fund it. We'll show you how to do everything. You guys just need the room and then, somebody to run it. And what these rooms are all about, it's giving kids the chance to learn the coping mechanisms that I've learned now. I'm 29, but give them, what is guided meditation? So they can take a little break. They're only allowed to be in these rooms for like 10, 20 minutes. And it's, you grab an iPad and you watch a video on mindfulness and you learn about it, or you throw in some headphones and your guided meditation, how to de-stress, how to deal with depression, how to deal with anxiety, what it is, how to understand it. And it's teaching kids these, rather than protecting them and giving them a safe space per se,
Mhm.
it's shit's gonna hit the fan, like it will. Let's teach you how to overcome it at a young age.
Mm.
So that's what we're doing. I think we're per franchise that we open. I think we'll fund 2 to 3 of these wellness centers in their local area. So I think we'll have several hundred of these open pretty soon. Really excited about that. It's just something that I was never taught, and I wish I was taught. Like I use
Yeah.
meditation a lot. I read books about mindset and how to, you know, live a fulfilled and happy life. And in high school, I didn't know about that though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Same here. And as you know, with entrepreneurship, it's all about mindset and being around the right crowd and everything.
Mhm.
And that's incredible. So this is not just for girls though, right? It's just for any young person then, or
Yeah, yeah, it's
okay.
for anybody. It's just girls are more susceptible and
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
these higher risks, so they're the ones that we're most focused on.
Mhm.
Uh, but no, it's for anybody.
Okay. And so how in the world did this, I mean, I know you talked about a little bit how it came about, but then when we were talking offline as well, you had other things you were planning on doing with this. So how did this process come about? Because I mean, I know, like you mentioned, it was your daughter seeing her and how she compared herself to the YouTuber, the little girl on YouTube when she was only like 3 or 4 years old. But how has all this came about? Because I know you're starting to add more things on top of this wellness centers and all these schools, but how did you build up this process? Because we think about, we want to create something, we want to create a business, we want to get on stage, we want to spread a certain message, but it seems so daunting and there's so many things maybe we want to do, or we have this big idea but we don't even know how to start. So how did you even get started with that?
I talked to 300 people. Like that's so. I guess the strategy that I've used is E-Myth Revisited. It's all
Mm,
about you
great
start a
book.
business. You're familiar with it, right? But
Mm,
for the audience, if anybody's not familiar with it, you start a business and you build an organization chart on what your business is going to look like in 3 years or in 5 years. And then you put so it's like, well, I'm going to have a CFO eventually. So here's the CFO role, and this is what they're going to do. And under the CFO, we're going to have a bookkeeper. This is what they're going to do. And we're going to have a COO, and we're going to have a salesperson or a VP of sales, and then a sales manager, and then a salesperson. And then you just start plugging your head, even if you're a one-man show, or like with solar, it was me and my brother. So we had a big old org chart, with 20, 30 positions, and we only had 2 heads to fill it in. And then you start working on replacing yourself. And now once you've worked your way out of that org chart, then you have time to really work on the business and not in the business.
mm,
And that's what I really focused on. And that's giving me the time. So I hired a CEO for this company, Jill Summer Hayes. She had started her own company back in the 80s, grew it to just under 700 franchises. It was called Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee. So it's like, well, let me find somebody who's been there, done that, right? There's nothing that anybody's done that I can't either learn or find somebody that already knows how to do that. So that's just been my approach. So how did I come up with the Wellness Center? I spoke with specifically the Wellness Center. I spoke with a buddy of mine that's doing our warehouse, and he goes, "Oh, my sister-in-law is a counselor at uh, high school here in Utah." So I was like, "Oh, connect me." So he connects me, and then I talk with her. She's like, "Oh yeah, we actually have a wellness center. Oh, let me come see it." And then I go talk to the other people, and then I'm talking with somebody else in an interview process, and he goes, "Oh, my wife was part of the interview or the wellness center out in Salem, Utah. Oh, let me go see it. Let me go meet her." And it's just like, if you tell 1,000 people what your cause is, and all my cause was is, what do I do about mental health? I have a daughter, I
mm,
have a problem, what's the solution? And then people are like, oh, well, talk to this person, talk to this person, so it was
mm.
really just networking. The other aspect of us providing this life guidance, I was at an Apex event, we're in a breakout circle, and I am, hey, what's your problem? And everybody gets the turn. And my problem was, this is what I'm doing. This is what my purpose. I don't know like what to donate to though. Like I know that we want to help mental health
Mm.
in kids, but how? And then somebody's like, oh, I got a solution for you. So
Nice.
it's really, you tell 1,000 people what you're doing, and you'll get 500 answers and connections. But it's just everywhere I'm going, I'm telling people what I'm doing, and it's either, hey, I want to buy a franchise. Wow, you have such a good model. Or, hey, I want to invest in the corporate side. Or, hey, I would love to donate. Or, hey, I know somebody that wants to do one of those three things.
Man,
So
that,
really just the networking is what
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. I'm actually reading Kel Goodman's the network ultimate networking machine or something like
Okay.
that. So, I'm reading that right now, and I mean it's so true. The connections you make, they're huge, and the groups we're a part of. I mean, we're a part of Apex together. I was a part
Mhm.
of Arte in the past. I actually haven't heard of the Power Room, but being a part of these groups, they're huge things. And you mentioned about being around doers, and why specifically around doers? I have my ideas, but I would love to hear your thoughts about why you're around doers rather than just around, I guess, good people, if you will. A lot of people think
Right.
that be around good
Um,
people.
it's really going back to the find somebody that's been there, done that. Because as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, we're typically over optimistic, right? It's like,
Mm,
wow, we could tackle the world. Yes to everything. I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. So if I think I could do everything, I'm gonna have to hire the right person,
hmm
and surround my or do something with the right person, right? Like, you want to buy real estate as an investment property. Don't go to your mom that has a real estate license, right? Don't go to your buddy, best friend that helps broker deals for your first time home buyers. Go
mm,
to somebody that invests in real estate, that them personally invest in real estate, right? That
mm,
they own 10 properties. If you want to own 10 properties, find a realtor that owns 10 investment properties and then go to that person.
mm.
So nothing against the non-doers, but it's find the people that are where you want to go, and then they can teach you how to get there. Either you hire
Mm.
them or whatever, you partner with them, or you just have them mentor you.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, Napoleon Hill says, right? You're the average of five people that you spend the most time with. Or, yeah, pretty sure it's Napoleon Hill, but yeah. And the saying
That's
goes,
somebody.
yeah, if you're out hang around five millionaires, you're gonna be the sixth. So basically that. So if you hang
Yeah.
around a bunch of doers, you're gonna become a doer yourself, and you're gonna be able to reach those goals that you want to through those people.
Mhm.
So I love that. But hey, if people want to reach out to you, if people want to be around a doer like yourself, where is the best place to find you?
Connecting with me on social media. So I have a website, bennettmaxwell.com, BENNETT. And there on the top, if you want to learn more about the franchising, you can schedule a call, or connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I've been trying to be a lot more active on the social medias.
Mhm.
And then I am just rolling out an In the Trenches report that I do every other week right now. And it's really trying to spread as real and as authentic as I can get, with actual numbers and figures of, like, man, we just wasted $10,000 on this stupid company, right? But actual in the trenches report of what we're doing in business, what's working, what's not working, with
Mm,
dollar amounts attached to it, so people really know. There's just such a big stigma of kind of, you kind of hide your life, and you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, I don't want other people to know exactly what I'm doing, how much I'm making," and I'm trying to break that up a little bit of really being authentic with what we're sharing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then if people want to get into the franchising, is that part of being in a franchise or getting a franchise with Dirty Dough? Do they have to then do the wellness, or is that just kind of part of what y'all try
Oh,
and do
it's
with
just an
that?
option. Yeah, it's just an option
Okay.
of, hey, we're going to fund this with or without you.
hmm
If nothing else, it's use your store, so we can do like Virginia High School. You own the Virginia Dirty Dough. Virginia High School is going to donate 15% of proceeds tonight to this cause, and then we blast that, we market it for you, and then you just serve the cookies. So
Okay. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So definitely, guys, make sure to check out Bennett. He's doing a lot of amazing things, especially with wellness. We know there's a huge need for mental wellness, especially with all the craziness that's gone on the last couple of years. Bennett, really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming
yeah,
on and sharing so much value.
thanks, man.